Welcome to the Sushi Swap Onsen AMA, where we bring on projects that have partnered with the Onsen program and give them a platform to reach a larger audience. Today we're here with Index Finance, and we've got Lawrence, Dylan, Austin, and Lito with us. How are you guys today?
Very good.
And thank you.
Awesome. So, I'll just start off here with a few questions to get this rolling, and then we can open it up to the audience, and they can raise their hand. We get them up on stage if they have questions, and we've also got the AMA text questions. So if you have if you're unable to speak or choose not to, there's the AMA questions so that you can, or AMA text questions channel. Just go in there, and your question will be heard. So, would you guys just introduce yourself a little bit here? Give us some background about you and involvement with the project right now.
Yeah, so I'm Dylan Keller. I'm the founder and lead developer. I've been doing Ethereum development for a couple of years now. Was mostly working on side chains and other kind of infrastructure projects, and then towards the end of last year, I wrote Index Finance.
So I'm Lawrence Day. I right now work kind of more on the math side of stuff and relative janitor stuff for the what keeps the protocol running right now. I come from a TradFi background. I'm one of probably the 5 people that hangs around here that was a Haskell dev by training originally, and I got involved off the back of actually finishing a master's thesis recently on index portfolio optimization. So it was really just kind of serendipity that I ended up hearing about indexed quite early on in its lifetime and hopped in as a result.
Awesome.
Oceanography, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I've been involved with the project for about a month now officially. Was an investor at first, and then got very active in the Discord. Created a dashboard site, indx.holdings. That's sort of a coin market cap of indexed finances products that will show you the performance of the index itself, as well as all the underlying assets within, and a few other things on there. And also, I run the index contest for us, which we just recently announced our second version of, that's open to registrations for all.
Yeah, I'm Lito Cohen, and I have a background in fintech. I'm a biz dev marketing guy. And a few years ago, I started with a website called cryptotesters.com with the aim to educate more people about DeFi. And so this is really my whole mission, is onboarding people to DeFi. And so I was lucky to discover Index like a couple of days after it launched, and it fitted really well with my goal of onboarding people to DeFi, because I think crypto ETFs are the best way for people who are less deep in the space than ourselves to get exposure to this market. And so saw the project, loved it, and started helping Dylan. And today I'm heading the whole marketing business side of things and part of the core team.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all for that. Thank you. So, and this may be more directed towards Dylan, but was there any inspiration for Index, or was there a specific event or something that kicked this off, or anything about that?
There wasn't so much a specific event. It was so I've been doing Ethereum development for quite a long time, and so I'm aware that there are a lot of good investments to make in the space. But since I was more kind of focused on infrastructure, I wasn't aware of all the specific products that I could potentially invest in, and I usually didn't bother to try because it was pretty expensive to try to rebalance my portfolio, and I didn't really have time to do enough research to make good investment decisions. And so as someone who'd been pretty deeply into the space for a long time, I knew that if I was having that kind of issue and not really being very active with managing my portfolio, and that would probably be the case with a lot of other people who are less experienced. And I was aware that, index funds and traditional finance do really well. So I started just modeling out different strategies for like allocating portfolio management, selecting assets within like a sector and so on. Discovered that it actually still it works in cryptocurrency as well as traditional finance, which was something that a number of people didn't really believe in last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided to kind of build out a protocol for like automating that with as little active management as possible.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So I guess that can kind of tie us right into just giving us a broad overview of what index finance is.
Yeah, so it's essentially a protocol for passive portfolio management. So the idea is we want to take some kind of investment strategy, target it at a particular market sector, and then just create like an automated system for setting the allocations of assets within the portfolio, handling rebalancing, and allow users to invest into that and divest from it. So the way that the different portfolios we have are structured is as a fork of balancer pools.
Mm-hmm.
So they're essentially AMMs, but where the goal isn't so much to get profit from swap fees and more to allow swaps to handle the rebalancing. So you don't have to go and like interact with an external market, which, if you have a large portfolio and you're trying to do large swaps all at once to rebalance it, you're going to incur slippage. You're going to have to pay exchange fees. Whereas if the portfolio itself is an AMM and you rebalance your swaps, then you actually earn fees by rebalancing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we have a number of different indices. The first two we made are CC10 and D55.
Right.
And those are targeted at specifically financial products.
Mm-hmm.
On Ethereum for D55, things like Uni, Maker, Compound, and then with CC10, the sector is kind of just large crypto projects that are based on Ethereum. And then we have a number of other products that we've built since then. We have Oracle's Index, NFT Protocol Index, DGen, and so on.
Excited about the DGen. I got an affinity for that one.
Yeah, it's a crowd favorite.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the one that is on Sushi Swap today. So we got to make some more publicity for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, DGen is an index that was launched in cooperation with Red Phone Crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And he had gathered like a big community around this idea for weeks, but hadn't found the right platform to launch it with. So, and we launched right at that time when he was in like the ideation phase.
Right.
So we reached out to him. We had just at that time we had just launched CC10 and D55, if I'm not mistaken. And then he had the idea to launch an index with small cap tokens. All the indices until then were more like the market leaders, and the idea being that you want to invest into something that can have like 10, 100x upside, but you want to diversify a little bit. And so that's basically what DGen does. It's a small cap index with a lot of projects that have a lot of potential according to us, essentially, or our community.
Nice. Yeah. Risk. You got to take risk to make the rewards. So yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
That's cool. And you guys manage it all for everyone, so it doesn't require a whole lot of management. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, I think that's another good point to touch on. Like when we say like we manage it for everyone, it's like it's important to highlight that these indices are like completely, yeah, they manage themselves essentially, because Dylan mentioned the assets, they sit in AMM pools. And so they essentially rebalance themselves without going too much into it. Maybe we can touch and like explain more how it exactly works. But so the whole rebalancing works in a completely automated way. And the only yeah, parameters that can be changed is like the index composition, so which assets go into the pool essentially. And yeah, this is voted by the community.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So you've got the rebalancing is done with the community and all that, and then I was also noticing like the weight and the time lock around that as well. That's that also community driven or?
So weighting is driven by a scoring contract, which is associated with the pool when it's deployed. So, for example, with the DeFi 5 case, it is weighted by the square root of the fully diluted valuation of the market caps that are relative to each other. So every week, what we can do is anyone, in practice, me right now, will just update a Uniswap oracle that will just pick up a twap of the FTVs of all of the assets that are in an index. And if it's so we work on this way where we have 3 rebalances and then 1 reindex. So the difference between these two is if it's just a rebalance, then we'll look at all the assets that are currently in the index and work out what the FTVs are. We'll square root them so that we compress the differences between them a little bit, and then we assign those weights to the underlying balancer pool. We say these are now what the target weight should be.
Got it.
If it's a reindex, then we look at the FTVs of every asset that's in the pool. So there's also going to be like, kind of your subs bench. And if any of them have overperformed relative to stuff that's in there, or if something that's in the index already has underperformed relative to something else, it'll be shunted out in favor of something else. That's a slow phasing in process. But yeah, this is all done using on-chain data. So the decision about how the weighting itself works is not down to one human. Again, anyone can do this. It's not a cheap but not an expensive operation to update the Uniswap oracle and do it. That's fine. But that really is, and beyond that, and the DAO voting on what should go into the candidate list, that list of what's considered during re-indexing phases, it's otherwise a self-running train.
Okay, got it. Cool. We've got a couple of questions I see from in the AMA text questions, and again, if anyone else has questions, if you just showed up here, you can ask them in the AMA text questions, or you can, and that's just a channel there, very close to the AMA stage, or raise your hand, and we'll get you up on stage here to ask a question. But going back here, we've got, will there be dual rewards on the Sushi LPs?
Yeah, so that's it's up to the Sushi team when that's going to happen, but we have discussed it, and that is the plan is to as kind of volume builds up on Sushi for our tokens, we're planning to move the current rewards that we have, which are on Uniswap V2, over to the Master Chef V2 contracts that users get NDX and Sushi.
Nice. Okay, when might we see DeFi 5 and other token pools added to SushiSwap? What fees are, oh yeah, that's the next question.
So I guess when DeFi 5 ports over is part of its follow-on to the same question, right? So ultimately we want to be moving all of our Uniswap V2 stuff over onto Sushi. What we're waiting for that sense is, well, we might as well move the NDX rewards over now. There's always going to be some proportion of holdouts that stick around on Uni, either just because they've forgotten that they've staked stuff, or what have you.
Right.
I think DeFi 5 will probably be one of the first ones that we try and port over because it's our largest and our most liquid.
Right.
With the intent of getting them all over soon. As Lido alluded to earlier, the ones that are there currently it's just the DGen index, and we've also launched on Onsen with the governance token NDX itself.
Yeah.
The Sushi team is currently looking at the rewarder contract that we've got, which will enable dual rewards, and then we'll slide over the NDX for that. Once that's a go, and we've seen kind of that that's working properly, then we'll engage again and be like, okay, right, the next one, let's bring over one of the big boys.
Yeah, cool.
I couldn't give a timeline for that, but I'd imagine it would be in the scale of weeks rather than months.
Excellent. That's a great answer when it's weeks versus months.
And it's maybe also interesting to the audience, like why we were so eager to partner up with Sushi and bring more, like eventually all of our indices there. I think like the Uni V3 is, good as it is technically, it introduces quite some friction into farming contracts and basically also in the user interface when you want to buy any asset, it gives you the like V3 quote as a preference, and it's quite confusing for the user to find the V2 quote. So that was one reason, and we just looked at Sushi for a long time and really love how you guys are like innovating the product and launching on multiple chains and the Hokashi lending platform. So lots of reasons why we wanted to be closer with Sushi, and of course the Onsen program is super interesting as well.
Yeah, awesome to hear. Thank you for all that positive feedback as well. That's really great. Awesome. Next thing here, what fees are there for indexes and when are they gathered? And that kind of ties into a question I had here, was like with maintenance fees, DK, and enter and exit fees, such like that.
So there's two fees that we have. One is a burn fee, which is 0.5%. You pay that whenever you burn your index tokens to redeem the underlying assets. Now, generally, except for with the very small indices, regular users aren't ever going to need to burn their index tokens because there's quite a bit of liquidity on Uniswap and soon on SushiSwap. So you can just kind of market sell them and get almost all of the time you'll get a better price from the market than you would after gas fees by burning, even without the fee. So we take a 0.5% fee that's mostly charged to like arbitrageurs. And then we also have a 2% swap fee. Now, some people get confused with that. It's not when you trade it on a market, it's when you swap the tokens within the AMM for the index. There's a 2% swap fee. And the reason that's so high is because we're not really aiming to get a lot of trade volume on these indices. We don't want impermanent loss. We want to have the swaps essentially there for the sake of rebalancing. So we have the fees set high enough that that's not an issue. And then you also pay that fee if you mint or burn the index token with a single underlying token. So the way that works is you can mint or burn with all of the underlying tokens and you pay no fee. Or you can do a single underlying token and then that gets priced kind of as if you were doing a swap to all of the other tokens and then minting. And it just uses the balancer pool math for that.
Got it. Are you seeing?
Sorry, continue.
No, I was just gonna ask. About like, are you seeing more just like single-sided provisions, or are you seeing like a lot more people bringing all the assets in, or how does that normally work?
So we don't have any statistics. We haven't actually tracked exactly to like what the ratio is, but based on user feedback, it seems pretty clear that the only people who are minting or burning with all of the underlying assets is like arbitrageurs or really large investors who are putting in like like $100,000 or more.
Okay.
It is worth pointing out at this stage, just more as an advert than anything else. So the 2% swap fees, given that they are imposed within the balance pool themselves, those accrue to the holders of the index tokens. So representation-wise, it should hopefully be obvious. These index tokens are LPs, of the underlying balance pool. That's from whence the claim on the assets comes. The exit fee that's generated produced on burn is generated and sent to the index treasury, and we are working, have been working on a revenue distribution proposal. So people will ultimately be able to stake their governance tokens and get a proportional stake of those tokens. It's not just held by the treasury for the sake of the fun of it.
Right. Okay. Okay. Can you guys elaborate, or what do you think about the partnership with SUSHI might bring in terms of leveraging the fact SUSHI is multi-chain? For example, will this allow indices to provide exposure to a greater variety of assets?
I think of it like only in terms of the user and not so much technically. I mean, technically we can bring our assets to any chain. For example, you can buy them today on QuickSwap, on Polygon, so that's no issue. But from a UX perspective, it's kind of confusing to users if you tell them, look, on like DeFi 5 you can buy it on let's say Uniswap on Ethereum, but then on QuickSwap on Polygon and on Arbitrum on Bancor, whatever. It would be nice to have like one DEX that we have a very close relationship with and offer our indices through one UI essentially. And especially since SUSHI is investing so much in that area with the beautiful UI, the domain and so on, it just makes sense to do it with you.
Awesome.
Maybe there are other thoughts on it, Dylan, Lawrence.
Yeah, I would just say in terms of being able to use other assets, at the moment we're not looking to deploy our core contracts to other chains. We do plan to do that sometime in the near future, but it's not on the short-term to-do list. So it's more a matter of bridging the assets over to different chains and then having liquidity there so people can swap them with low fees.
Got it.
Yeah, one of the key things that we hear quite often is, why should it, especially back in the days of, ludicrous gas from a couple of weeks ago, they were like, why would I be paying $80 to swap for $100 of an index token, which was a fair criticism, even though something that was out of everyone's hands, which is kind of what necessitated the move over to Polygon anyway, which is where we moved some of our stuff to start with, and saw a decent amount of traction there. Now, again, the positive side about having this stuff all kind of administered from SUSHI would be that there is just a one-stop shop where it doesn't matter what chain you're on as long as it's supported. If you want your low fees or whatever, the bridge is all there in a central location.
Right. Okay, awesome. Next one here is from Bergie. I was curious about credentials, relevant experience in finance, econ, or anything like the devs here, or like by the devs here. Does the team have or hail primarily from developer roles or experience or anything finance related? Just curious. I think we kind of touched a little bit in the beginning of the AMA on that. It's during your intro.
Yeah, I think Lawrence, you have like the most relevant background in finance. Maybe I can just start with myself. I worked in fintech before, so I was working at PayPal, and been super interested in that intersection of finance and technology. But I wouldn't say I'm like super heavy kind of quant guy. But Lawrence fits more to that description, I think.
Yeah. So. A good many years ago, after I finished a computer science PhD, I moved straight into banking. I worked in model risk analytics and risk management as a Haskell developer at Standard Chartered Bank in Singapore. And so that was more on the reporting side of things, but I did get a fair amount of exposure to the day-to-day of various instruments. After I left that, and what I can best describe as an act of masochism, did a master's in financial engineering, which I finished a couple of months ago. finishing up with a thesis on using Joel Greenblatt's magic formula to optimize index portfolio selections. And it was actually because I was finishing that stuff off at the same time that I was introduced to Indexed that kind of glommed me onto it in the first place. And to be clear, I've never worked kind of in a boutique-facing thing. I've not a trader, but I've got a good 5 years experience sitting on the in that universe.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, and then I guess my background in finance is that I have a bank account. I've been doing pretty deep Ethereum development, but I wasn't in the actual like financial side of it until Index Finance. I've been building side chains. I made something called Interstate Network, and then I made a side chain for Dharma and various other kind of infrastructure projects.
Nice.
But you have to know that Dylan is very humble. Like he understands more about finance and math in general than 99% of the people.
Shout out to that bank account.
Yeah. Chase Bank will teach you the things you need to know.
Awesome. Okay. Are there new products in development, i.e. new indexes or products?
So we have a couple of indices that we're working on, but nothing to announce at the moment. As far as new products, we're working on something. It's kind of a yield aggregator. We'll have an announcement about that probably at the end of the month. But the gist of it is it'll affect the index pools by allowing us to kind of utilize the assets more productively, lending them out to lending protocols and generating interest on them, so that if you're holding DeFi 5, you're earning interest on all the underlying assets while still holding the same, having the same exposure to the market sector.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that we've mentioned it in public. So anyone who is here has some major insider.
All right.
And it's also worth pointing out that this yield aggregator will be utilizing it internally for the assets in our index pools, but they will also be available to any user to deposit their assets to. And basically, what these vaults will do, they will always look to get the highest interest rate on any asset. So USDC, for example, and will scan 10 different lending protocols to get the highest rate, and also shift the assets dynamically between these different protocols.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for all of that. And I think that kind of ties in maybe a little bit towards what Captain Geek's asking here. Can you guys talk about interest-bearing tokens? So.
Yeah, I think that's basically what we just explained. Maybe to expand, I think our focus will always be these ETFs, but we whenever we see an opportunity to add something that can make users' lives easier and automate a lot of things, then we'll build it. So passive portfolio management strategies is the big umbrella vision,
right?
And in this case, the yield aggregator fits perfectly into it, and maybe there'll be some other things. But we think crypto ETFs will be huge going forward, and it's especially a lot of TradFi guys, when they look at the space, they're very interested in crypto ETFs. That's been our observation. People approaching us. I don't know if you saw, there was this research paper a couple of days ago published from Stansberry, which is a research publication. They have 500,000 paying subscribers, and they wrote a 16-page report on our Degen index. And there have been a couple of instances like that where we saw interest not coming from within the DeFi space, but outside. So
perfect. Perfect.
kind of promising.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. Congratulations for you guys. So
Thank you. There's one other thing I just want to mention. In the realm of passive portfolio management, one thing that we've been looking at, so I don't know the speed at which it'll be pushed out, is some stuff like vaults for DCA between assets. So between your DAI to your ETH or vice versa. This is kind of, it falls into the realm of stuff will do it for you. Don't know kind of the speed at which it'll be pumped into existence, but it was something that was looked at for a couple of days. If it sounds like we're being a little bit cagey about the yield aggregator we're working on, that is kind of intentional, everyone. Simply because we don't lay all the cards on the table yet, but we're quite excited about it, both for what it represents as a standalone thing and what it'll allow us to do for the existing products. And that if you have DeFi 5, you won't have to migrate over to receive a yield-bearing variant. But that is the most I'm going to say about that right now.
nice. Well, thank you.
Cheers.
Cool. Okay. Do you have any partnerships outside of the one with Red Phone Crypto?
Do we tell them, boys?
We're working on some things, but not at the moment that have come to fruition just yet.
Cool. We can keep it at that then. Yeah. Also, if anyone in the audience has questions, please raise your hand and we can get you up on stage. You can ask verbally, or like I say, we've got that AMA text message, AMA text questions channel. So it's been great that you guys have been bringing in questions over there as well. So a couple more things.
It would be awesome to get someone from the sushi community to ask some questions.
Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, here I've got a couple more things I wanted to ask you guys about. I saw you've got the Sigma program. You guys want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So when we launched this in December of last year, we had a single management strategy and a single allocation strategy, which was we have a list of tokens. We're going to weight them by the square root of their fully diluted valuation, and then just like take the top tokens from the list sorted by FDV and put them into the index. The reason we started with that is because all of the data needed for it can be acquired on chain pretty securely. We just use a Uniswap oracle and then like the total supply of the token, and we can get a good average FDV for the tokens. But there's other allocation strategies that we wanted to pursue, other types of like integrations that we'd want to be able to do, and so doing that through the full governance process takes a bit of time and quite a lot of input from everyone, and then we need everyone to go and like vote on it on chain. So we made a proposal to the community to have a vote by index community members to elect a small committee of 5 people who had been pretty active in the project to be able to manage a new program called Sigma, which had tokens available from governance to allocate for liquidity and mining rewards, and which would be able to create kind of more experimental products using different types of strategies to be able to move quickly. So I think like a couple of weeks, very shortly after we got that program approved by governance, we launched the DGen index, and then we launched NFTP through that, and the error index, which it's not go into, but and then FFF as well, the Future Finance Fund. So those are indices that we launched with the Sigma program, and they use a different allocation strategy than the original indices did. And it's gone great. The community loves it, and we actually have another election coming up to kind of reselect who's going to be on the committee. The original proposal was to have it last through the end of May, and we're just finishing up a new voting website that'll kind of improve the process a bit. So it got a little bit delayed for the next selection.
Okay, thank you for elaborating on all that. Also just wanted to ask about the circuit breaker as well. I think that maybe ties into here a little bit.
Sure. I can talk about this. So when you're dealing with indices that are comprised of perhaps small assets, such as the ones that are constituent in dgen, so either they're quite new, or they're quite low cap, or they're doing quite risky things. Risky being, I suppose, a subjective word given the name of the index. You want to be able to have some kind of assurance that in the event of some kind of exploit, that it's not going to cause the entire ship to fall over. So, for example, if you guys remember the exploit on the roll network from a good couple of months back, where you suddenly found a bunch of these social tokens being minted and dumped en masse. If something like that was to happen in a constituent of dgen with no protections, then you would find that someone was able to mint a whole bunch of tokens and then swap them within the underlying balancer pool for unsullied assets, right? And you'd be able to do some very significant damage in that regard. So the circuit breaker, what it does is within the Sigma pools. So not the ones that are currently run by the DAO themselves, but for these kind of more experimental ones, there is an option to halt swaps between assets of the pool, and permissions to flip that switch are delegated to some whitelisted addresses, of which I'm one of the controllers. The way that that's interacted with, I don't fire that just randomly, even if I did maliciously, all it would just mean is no swaps for a while. It doesn't actually exploit any funds. It's just a pain. The circuit breaker comprises of a little program running on a digital ocean droplet that is scanning via Infura the prices and the token supply of all of the underlying assets block by block. And if it notices a massive jump either way in one of them by some predetermined amount, I think 10% is the way that they're going right now, then it will slam the brakes itself. So, the block that it notices that, say, for example, 1 million curve have been printed, or 10 million, or what have you, then it'll instantly go, okay, no, stop all swaps until we determine if this is a legitimate thing or not. And so that gives you a lot of breathing room until, and that's also hooked up. So, for example, I get a text that tells me that this is the case. And again, even if I was to do that myself, it's not a big deal. It just becomes an annoyance. People would still be able to burn out their tokens if that was the case. And, like I was hit by a bus and unable to cancel it myself.
Well, let's hope we don't have any buses.
So yeah, those are running and have been.
Yeah.
Okay. They have tended to trigger quite early on in the lifetime of an index when it's created. When there's not much by way of funds in the underlying pool, and so prices can get thrown out of whack quite quickly. But as soon as you reach something along the lines of 100k, then it's fine. It won't fire it unless it actually notices something that you call malicious. It hasn't fired yet in a situation that we would consider dire, as in none of the constituents have been assaulted. A good couple of weeks ago, there was that incident with one of the, was it Rari's fuse pulse underlying? Someone might be able to remind me of the details of that, but Rari's price dropped by about 40% over the course of a day. Now, that would not have triggered the circuit breaker because that was a sell-off rather than an exploit. That's just the way it goes when you have members of an index. So, it's working as expected in that regard.
All right. Yeah, cool. Thank you for all of that. We'll just maybe avoid buses and boats, perhaps. Hate for those kind
How
of
else am I meant
accidents.
to lose everything in a boating accident?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One other thing I'd like to talk about is you kind of alluded to it earlier here, but the index competition that you guys have going on and you're running now. This is round 2 at this point.
Yes. Ryan, here's your time.
Yeah, so we just opened the registration for round 2. The first round was a bit of a test run, so we kind of reached out to some prominent members of crypto Twitter, as well as some community members to sort of get in there for that experimental run, and happened to start that on May the 18th, so everyone was subsequently wrecked 24 hours later, and didn't actually have anybody recover back to break even on that one. So we're hoping this time around market conditions will be a little bit more favorable for people's indexes to perform well. But I think one of the main ideas behind it is to just get people thinking about what the composition of an index might look like in terms of the constituents and the methodology for weighting those, choosing high market cap assets versus low market cap, that type of thing. So it should be pretty fun. I've been watching the entries come in, and there's definitely some interesting selections happening. So the performance of those over the next couple of weeks while we run this should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, very cool. I actually started one last night, so looks like it's just a nice straightforward Google form, and it looks interesting to kind of go through a little bit of a process of choosing and picking. So kind of gives us a bit of an insight. So how do people
for this current one? I was kind of had people build them with our FFF index in mind. So kind of weighting it at the top with some high market cap, the front runners of the space, and then including one of our indexes, and then a couple of low market cap ones as well. And I kind of purposely had an index in there because I didn't want to see people selecting all stable coins with some of the bearish sentiments that there are, even though an all stable coin index would have won the first competition.
Guilty as charged. We're in a crab market now, boys. But for what it's worth, it took 15 minutes before the first selection of dog money went into an application. So, they haven't gone anywhere. They've just gone quiet.
Okay. And how do they find that competition? You can just get there right from your website, or?
It's advertised on our Twitter right now. There is no explicit link to it from the website.
Okay.
It's very much more, so kind of, think about it a little bit, what an index would look like. It's also it's very much hype building thing as well. If you're not kind of previously aware of index finance, this is a gateway for you to do so.
Perfect.
Yeah, the link to the form is in the Medium post that we published, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. So if you just have to go into the Medium, then you land on a Google form, you fill out something, and then Oceanography does his magic and uploads it to the website when the contest begins.
Awesome. And it's free for everyone because it's just a Google form. So also
right,
a key thing to
exactly.
note.
It's nothing on chain. It's a completely virtual fake index basically. But it's nice to be able to do marketing competition that is so closely related to the product. Some protocols give away some stuff, some goodies or something, but we're actually dog fooding our own product, which is indices.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like your fantasy indice league that you could get started
Exactly.
on. You could I definitely see some direction going with that. So very cool. Anyone else from the audience, if you've got questions, please raise your hand. We'll get you on stage. You can ask what you need to. And again, like I said, the AMA text questions. If there's anything further, it'd be awesome to get any last questions here. This has been super informative this far and whatnot. So looks like we've got someone typing here, but oh yeah, okay. I think that's kind of what all that I had to cover with you guys. If no one else from the audience has anything else, have you guys got any other questions or anything else that you'd like to discuss or things that we should have touched on?
Nothing off the top of my head. I think we've gone through quite a bit in the last 50 minutes.
Yeah, this has been very extensive. So cool. So with everybody that's in the audience right now, I'm about to send out some popes. So you should see it from Sushi Pope. You're going to see I'm running it right now here. Let's see if this works. You should start seeing a Sushi Pope bot. And this will be dishing out your proof of attendance protocol badge. So thank you so much for showing up. I'm seeing a MK22. You're getting an error, so I don't think you're going to get one, but so just DM me afterwards and we'll get you set up. Zapchini and FloatZ DO for fun. Any of you, please DM me afterwards and we'll get you hooked up here. So look like those were kind of the only issues there. There's only about 4 of you. So hopefully you'll get those and keep showing up for those. We've also got the Sushi Forum this afternoon, or I guess, well, depending on where you are in the world. So join there. We'll also be handing out popes with that. And we're for the Index team, where's, I guess, website, socials, all that? Where can people find you and learn more?
Go to index.finance is our website,
Mm-hmm.
and we're on Twitter at NDX5.
All right, so index.finance for your website, and Twitter is at NDXFI.
Yep.
Awesome.
And if you want to buy NDX or Degen, you go to sushi.com.
Perfect.
Nice plug.
Nice. Yeah, okay. Well, this has also been recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can find that on the Sushi official channel. And you can follow that, subscribe there, and keep up to date with any of the new AMAs that are happening in the forum and any other tutorials and educational stuff there as well. Follow me on Twitter at 0xtangle and get the latest on AMAs and any some other sushi related things too. So thank you again. Thank you all for showing up and coming out and bringing out the questions. This has been awesome, and looking forward to all the things that Index brings into the future.
Thanks for having us.
You betcha.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.